Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dreams Unlimited Travel Podcast. My name is John Magi, and I'll be your host. And in this episode, we're going to compare Lookout Cay to Castaway Cay, and we're going to tell you which is the better private island by Disney. And this is what everybody in the world and on the internet is going to have to go by. So pay attention. I am joined by our panel of experts, Dreams Unlimited Travel agent and DCL fan panelist, Elaine Edwards.
Hi, friends.
Dreams Unlimited Travel agent and Diz Unlimited podcast panelist, boy, it's a hard one to say, Hannah Anderson.
It sure is. Hello, hello.
And our executive producer and expert in Lookout Cay, Craig Williams. Oh, and a big dog.
Oh, hoi, hoi. Not mine.
All right. Thank you, everybody at home, for joining us, for watching our show. Thank you guys for being here. Before we get started, I've got a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. For those of you who watch our other shows, who watch our other channels, you probably know that Craig has left our company, has left our organization, but we record these in advance. So what I'm doing right now is, before Craig leaves, I'm squeezing every minute of work out of him that I can. So we're recording these shows before he goes, and you might say to yourself, wait, I thought Craig was gone, but he is with us for at least a couple more shows on the Dreams Unlimited Travel channel. So thanks for doing that, Craig. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me, John. I appreciate it. And hopefully we will finally solve this heated debate today about Lookout Cay being just as good as Castaway, just different.
Wow, that was not the way I positioned it, but we think you know where Craig stands. All right, so we're going to get started now. I'm going to do something, and I hope you guys go with me on this. I want to skip over the long walk at Lookout Cay. It's on the internet. Everybody talks about it. Everybody's doing it to death. We know that it's an issue. We'll talk about it on different and other shows. I would like to just, from this point, talk about the island forward. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, I like that plan.
Okay.
And I was ready to defend the long walk. I had measurements out comparing Castaway Cay to Lookout Cay, so I was ready for that conversation.
Wow.
Okay, girl.
We'll do that on another show, maybe. We'll take out your ruler. All right, so let's get started with, let's talk about how the island looks from the boat. Because I think there's a completely different appearance for each of these islands, quote unquote. We'll get into that later too as well. But Elaine, what do you think about the island as we pull up to it and how it looks versus Castaway Cay?
So when you are pulling up, honestly, what you are seeing is the dock, you're seeing the pier, and then you're seeing a little bit of edge of the island when you're looking at Lookout Cay. When you are pulling up parked at Castaway Cay, you are seeing this entire lagoon, you're seeing beach, you're seeing foliage, that kind of thing. And so I think if you are on the ship looking at the island, Castaway Cay is a better view, because Lookout Cay, it's just, you're not really seeing much of anything.
Hannah, what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, there was this debate during the first sailings, what side of the ship is going to look at the island. And for the preview cruise, it was the starboard side. It seems like most of the cruises since then have actually been port side, which is the left side. Hang with me here. But then when you dock at Castaway Cay, the view that Elaine just described is from the starboard or the right side of the ship. To me, Castaway Cay is a clear winner in terms of views from the ship. And so what I found myself doing is, for clients who are booking a cruise with a stop at both Castaway and Lookout, recommending that starboard side still, because I think that the Castaway view is great and the Lookout Cay view is meh. Take it or leave it. So yeah, the Castaway wins that round for me.
And we know we've got Chris Vorbeck is on the ship right now, and he went with us on this preview cruise as well. And he's saying the ship is docked the other way. So we don't know if they haven't decided yet. We don't know if they're, working out some details, or if they're just going to flip it every time they go, because it might not really matter.
Do you think Craig, it has to do with small ship versus larger ship? Because the one that he's on right now is the Magic again, which is what we were on, and it was starboard, but it was the Fantasy that was port side.
Could be ship size. It could be ship size. I don't think it really matters because the ship is actually staying in Port Canaveral, and the dock reaches from the island to Port Canaveral.
That's what I heard.
It's just, it's 2 feet, I think.
You weren't supposed to talk about it, John.
Oh, shit. I broke the rule already. Craig, your opinion on the visual effect of this island, or the visual impact of the island when we pull up to it?
Obviously, Castaway Cay is a lot better than Lookout Cay, but if I can spin a positive with it, I rarely am sitting and enjoying the view from the ship when I'm at either of these islands. Granted, we've only been to Disney Lookout Cay once, but I'm usually having breakfast and getting ready, and then as soon as you can get off the ship, I'm off the ship. So I'm never going to be the type of person who's like, you have to be here because you want to sit out and look at the island for some amount of time. Get me onto the actual island. And yeah, the one thing I do like about Disney Lookout Cay too is the fact that you can't really see the best part of what is happening at that destination also adds a little bit of extra mystery to it all, especially for the first time. After that, it's the illusion's ruined, but that very first time, you don't know truly what it's going to be like to have to leave the ship, walk the pier, get on the tram, and then you are just dropped into what is then a paradise right afterwards. So I do kind of like that aspect, that it's almost like with Walt Disney World having to either take the monorail or the ferry across to then be like, wow, I'm finally here. It kind of has that same energy to it for me. So that's a half answer from me, I guess.
Okay. I think I can relate to what you're saying more in terms of the Magic Kingdom, right? So the train track, the train elevation of the train acts as the curtains before you enter the Magic Kingdom. And so you have that same sort of expectation with Lookout Cay, is that you haven't quite arrived yet until you arrive. So you have the preamble to the island. I also think it's fair, we all should do all of this discussion with the idea that it's still very early, and that Disney is excellent at changing and improving and making modifications. So I don't know what that island's going to look like. I'm going to do a lot of comparison to Castaway Cay when it first was accepting guests. I remember those days, and there's a lot of similarities in how the islands looked and felt. But Castaway is now built up and developed and has, its own feel and energy as it progressed over time. So I think we have to give the new island that benefit of the doubt. Who knows? I mean, this side of the island where the boat docks might be completely different in 3 years. So I've arrived at the island. We've gotten to the tram. Tell us about the trams to where we're going, because there's not much to do when you get off the boat. You have to be taken by tram on Lookout Cay to the other end of the island. So let's talk a little bit about that, Elaine.
So on Lookout Cay, the tram ride to the main stop is right at 10 minutes, and it is a very slow moving tram ride. And it is I think it could probably be 4 minutes, but they are going very slow, and they are filling that time by telling you this story. Disney is all about storytelling. So they have these animals that are telling you the story of their island. And it's very cute. But there isn't really anything that ride is cut through the vegetation. So you just have high vegetation on both sides. Now, I don't know why they're going so slow. I don't know if it has to do with it's basically just like dirt and sand, and that's what you're driving over, and they don't want to like kick up dust. I don't know. But that is that.
I'm going to go back to my theory from before. I think they're going really slow because it's not done yet. I think it would have been too rough and too jostly, and the tram would have been going all around because there are parts that are very uneven that they were driving over. I think once that they've worked it all out and they finish it, they might go a little faster and it might be a little bit better. I mean, there's also supposed to be walking trails and bike trails. I saw none of that. So there's a lot they have to do. Hannah, tell me about your experience on the tram and the very loud story that was playing.
So we did run into one of the hiccups we had is that some of the speakers were not working on our way out there. So I got to hear about half the story, but I did really enjoy it. And I think it'll be fun for kids and for the whole family. But yeah, I think the walking path thing is one of the biggest differences between it and Castaway is because we asked when we first got there because it was the first day anyone had been to the island. So there was this like mad dash to get on the tram. And so we're like, we'll just walk it. And the cast member's like, well, you can, but it'll take about 20 minutes. And then hindsight, I would not recommend that walk to anyone, even if you are in great shape, because there's not really a path. You're just kind of walking in the sand beside the tram. And I don't know, I almost feel like Disney will probably discourage that until that's actually a walkway. But all that to say, you're getting on the tram. So tram ride is not really optional. And I have to say, this is one of those areas where you can absolutely tell that this is a, brand new experience, brand new destination, because they have planted new foliage and a lot of it is in progress. So I do think one day that's going to be a beautiful introduction, kind of grand reveal to being at Lookout Cay. But yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is like at Castaway, I normally don't take the tram. I usually walk it. At Lookout, you really need to take the tram. So get on the tram, listen to the cute story about Lizzie, the curly-tailed lizard, and, kick back and
have no
be
choice.
in 10 minutes. Yeah, right.
And Craig, what about your feelings of the tram?
I'm kind of with Hannah. I don't use the tram at Castaway Cay. I think I maybe used it the first time I was there because I didn't know how long the walk was or anything, and now I walk it every single time. But yeah, with Lookout Cay, I'm excited to see what it will be like one day when it's all finished. So you don't necessarily have to take the tram, but I do enjoy the fact that they include the story aspect in there. I clearly wasn't paying attention enough because then I missed all like the references to the different animals and creatures that are a part of the story all throughout Disney Lookout Cay. So, I guess you can be told what to expect and what to look at, and you'll still miss all that stuff. But it's cute that they did try to add that extra backstory to it, because ultimately Disney Lookout Cay is about trying to be authentic to the Bahamian experience, but still have those little Disney touches to it. And I feel like even though Mickey Mouse isn't shoved everywhere on this island, this is one of those, it's one of those opportunities they use to incorporate Disney's storytelling capabilities into the actual destination. So yeah, I think it's pretty effective.
And
I do have one thing to add as far as a difference between the two of them that I've noticed. On Castaway Cay, half the time I walk and half the time I use the tram. It just kind of depends who I'm with and what we're feeling that day. But in Castaway Cay, every time I use the tram, I notice that I arrive at the tram station and we are usually waiting a good period of time maybe 5 to 10 minutes for a tram to arrive before we can ever get on it. And if it fills before we get to the front of the line, then we're waiting another good amount of time before we can get on it. It was not that way at Lookout Cay. When the first one filled, the next one was immediately there and pulled up. And then there was another one that was right behind that, was ready to pull up. The reason I know that is because Miss Hannah just elbowed us out of the way, jumped on the tram. It took off.
I will be first.
Me and Federico were standing there with the dust flying on us, like, don't even know what happened.
Bye.
But that next tram was right there to pull up. So that was a lot nicer.
Yeah, when she showed up like a minute later, I was like, how'd you get here so fast? I was supposed to leave you in the dust.
I wanted to do everything before you got here. What's interesting, though, is I had heard stories about how long people were waiting to get on the tram. Now, it took me longer to get off the boat and get to the tram, and a story for another day. But when I got there, there's nobody. There was like 4 or 5 trams waiting to pick people up and take them. And it was the same at the other end, that the trams were backed up. So it seems to me like they've got enough for everybody to get everybody there quickly as they can, and let people start enjoying the sort of what I would call more developed side of the island. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tram pulls up, and here we are. This is it. This is the part of the island that the Imagineers have spent a great deal of time developing and put a lot of energy into, and Disney has put their money into this. What do we think, Elaine? What do you think as you step off that tram?
So when we got off the tram, there was the kind of the whole plaza area. And of course, we were there to cover it. So we were kind of like, what can we get to first? That kind of thing. We were not necessarily thinking in terms of, we're here for vacation, where's the beach? But they have the larger store, the Disney Teens, and then they have the other shore, which is Treasures of Eureka, whatever it's called.
Treasures of Eleuthera.
There we go. That's what it's called.
What final part did she say it was? Treasures.
I knew I was going to get it wrong before I ever started because I get it wrong every time. But anyways, so they have all of that right there, as well as some other buildings. And so you kind of have the choice if you want to go ahead and go shopping, if you want to head to the beach, which Castaway is kind of the same thing. You get off of the tram and it's the same kind of setup with their stores. So
Hannah, your input of that first impression as you sort of pull up and you get off the tram?
Well, as I pulled up and left Elaine in the dust, I quickly, I'm just kidding. I was one of those people who clearly went to the gift shop first, which, normally I would not recommend because then you've got to, take all your stuff to the beach. But I mean, first impression is, to me, it felt very different from Castaway because it's kind of, everything's kind of compacted more, I feel like, at Lookout Cay. And so you get there and everything feels like it's kind of all right there, and the beach isn't very far either. So I feel like you kind of have, this long tram ride, and then when you're there, you're just there, which I think is really nice. And then you get sort of that taste of, you mentioned what the Imagineers did with using like everything is natural-ish elements. So everything is kind of soft lines and looks like the beach and shells you might find there on the island and things like that. So that definitely translates to every building, the entire experience. And then also in that area is where the start of the Junkanoo, the Rush Junkanoo Parade begins. So it's cool to kind of be immersed in that right away. Like I said, you got this long anticipation. And then I feel, to me, once you're there, you're kind of just there. And unlike Castaway, that's it for tram stops. So you're not then going on to another tram to Serenity Bay. Once you're there, you are there.
Before I get to Craig, I think it's interesting is that I feel like this island has more of a reveal than Castaway. So Castaway, you get there, you get on the tram, and you can kind of see everything. Yeah, there's places that you have to go to and discover and see the different parts of the island. But this island was more to me like, okay, now I'm here. Now I'm arrived. I see the architecture. I see the way that the Imagineers have put into the sort of, it reminded me a lot of Alani in how they use the architecture to marry into the landscaping and the sea and the things like that. So that felt more of a reveal to me. Craig, you get off the tram, you rush to buy souvenirs. I don't think you rushed to buy souvenirs. What did you think?
I did not rush to buy souvenirs, so you are correct there. I think, I mean, I liked the look of it right away. It was very overwhelming with our coverage because we knew that we had like minutes to get to the Fun in the Sun Beach Bash, and then, you know, wanted to see the Rush Junkanoo celebration. And so, like, that was the first thing that kind of became overwhelming, that it's like, we've never been here before. I don't know how large this area is all going to be. It doesn't look that big on a map. So is it going to be massive? And I was shocked that while it is spread out, it never felt that way. I do appreciate the fact that they put the gift shops right as you get off the tram, because, you know, any good Disney ride should immediately send you right into a gift shop, and that's basically what they do. But then, you know, you have this next layer of the Junkanoo, the Goombay Cultural Center is right there beyond the gift shops. As you spread a little bit further out, you start to hit where the dining locations are, the barbecue setups, and it just keeps going on from there. So, John, you said that it feels like it's the big reveal, but I think that's all part of the design that Disney was going for. With Castaway Cay, as we already said, you pull in and you go on the top deck, you can see everything, and it's just about how can I get from where we are at to where I want to go. And with Disney Lookout Cay, I feel like the entire point of the island is discovery. And you get dropped off and you're not immediately at the beach. You have to start to make your way towards it, and you have to go past these different buildings. You have to take in the landscape that will continue to grow that's around you. Maybe you end up finding the nature trail, and that leads you to a different part of Lookout Cay that you didn't even expect to go to. But it's all about literally having the chance to explore and discover the island, and at the end of it you get what is a magnificent beach. And I love Castaway Cay. The beach here is just on a different level entirely. That you will, I mean, people out there have seen blue waters like it before, I'm sure, but this was my first time seeing anything quite on this level, and I just think about it almost daily, that of all the, I don't like getting in water, but I would go and jump in this water again in a heartbeat.
I've seen beaches all around the world, and I will say this beach and this water was spectacular. I think part of what made it feel spectacular is it didn't feel overworked. It didn't feel like it was, worked within an inch of its life, and they did all this stuff. It felt really beautiful and really natural. Definitely something that drew me in. I was really impressed with the infrastructure on this island. Castaway Cay, yeah, there's infrastructure, but it's kind of, it all feels a little flat. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It just feels like it's all where you're going to get from point A to point B is concrete. And this is, how you get around, and that's just fine. But this with the elevated walkways and ramps and things, it really felt like it had a whole infrastructure unto itself, which really impressed me. Let's talk about the island's specific things that are different from Castaway. Craig mentioned some of them just now, but Elaine, what were some of the things you noticed here that were different from Castaway, either for the good or bad?
So, as Craig mentioned, there's a lot of cultural activities that are going on this island that is not something that's going on Castaway. And I will tell you, Junkanoo, I was all over that. And we were still, when that started up, we were still right outside the gift shops area. So they started playing in their like gathering area. They started playing the music, and it's like, okay, they're going to start and they're going to make their way over to the stage where they're going to perform. So all of the musicians started playing, and then from another area, all of the characters and their outfits started coming out, and they were dancing and they were playing, and then they all just kind of melded together and started this parade before going to the stage area where they were going to perform. That was awesome, and I would highly recommend watching it from there, because you got so much more of the full effect. I know that Craig had talked about in one of his videos that watching it from the stage area, he felt like he was only seeing the performers directly in front of him and not all of the performers. This way, you saw every single person, plus you saw those characters. They were interacting with you. They had these smiles on their faces that they were so, you could tell they were so proud of what they were doing. And it just like, it gave me shivers. And that's not like, I don't get that a lot. And it was just, it really did move me watching that and watching the whole procession. So that was one of the completely different things that I just loved.
I haven't been to Castaway since the launch of The Wish. So, and I know you were there recently. Is there anything like that on Castaway? Is there any big quote unquote performance in Castaway?
No, so that's a huge difference, is that there's not any sort of parade or stage show like that. I mean, the closest thing that they have is the characters now have these very cute kind of like Jeeps that they come out in to the beach. But I mean, other than that, and especially not something that's, you know, unique or authentic to the Bahamas. So yeah, I mean, to me, like that, and that is that Disney difference, that storytelling, that's, you know, being genuine to the island of Eleuthera, that is gonna, I feel like, is long lasting. And you mentioned Alani, and it does remind me a lot of that, where it's not just, I am going to a fictional Disney vacation, which, hello, we love, but also you are immersed. And so it's very cool to be like, okay, I am going to the Bahamas, but I am truly going to the Bahamas. Like, I am getting to see and experience some of that culture. So that obviously is huge. And I agree with Elaine. I don't tear up very often. And I did, watching that parade, I think just seeing, yeah, like she said, the looks on the performers' faces and seeing the Disney characters just completely immersed in that was very unique. But and to Craig's point, the water, like, that beach is insane. And like you, John, I've been to a lot of beaches. I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like that. The sand is powdery and soft, and the water is just like crystal blue. It's stunning. So that in itself is definitely different than Castaway. Not that I, you know, don't love the beach at Castaway, but it's very different. And then, hey, from the mom perspective, all the water play areas there are incredible. Like, Castaway does have a splash pad area, and then they also have I think it's called, is it Rush Out, Gush Out? But the play area has a slide that's in the water. What they have here at Lookout Cay is completely different, and it's enclosed and safer, and there's more options for like little kids. Whereas like the little kid splash pad at Castaway is, you know, just kind of like a concrete pad with fountains that pop up, almost like something you'd see at like Disney Springs. So yeah, I mean, that in itself, like, I feel like for my 2-year-old, like, he's going to love the Junkanoo parade, he is going to love the water play areas, and Mama loves the beach. So it's a win-win.
You got everything you need right then and there.
Yeah.
Craig, I'm going to go to you for the other stuff, right? I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't get very far on the island. Stories for other days. But at that point, I wasn't feeling like I could do a lot of exploration. Let's talk about Serenity Bay, right? Serenity Bay, from what I could see, which wasn't a lot, that felt very different between Lookout and Castaway. What do you think, Craig? Big difference?
It absolutely is a big difference, because on Castaway Cay, it is truly like a secluded destination for adults, and at Disney Lookout Cay, it is basically just, if you keep wandering barely anywhere past the family section, then you end up there. And I think Hannah brought up a good point on a recent Dis Unlimited podcast, where as a parent, that actually is nice, because let's say you're over at if you're over at Serenity Bay at Castaway Cay and you have to get back over to the family section, you've got some work to do to get back over there. It's just not instantly you're there. Whereas if something comes up at Disney Lookout Cay, you know, you're back to the family section immediately, and you can be there with no issues at all. So while it doesn't have that separation where you feel like, I can breathe without kids being even close by, there are added benefits to it. In terms of the food, I know that's a big deal with Castaway Cay, that people love that there's at least like the thinnest steak in the world that's available at the barbecue there. I didn't notice any food differences as of now at the Serenity Bay barbecue on this island. That doesn't mean it won't come. I mean, we were quite literally on the very first cruise, so that has to really play out a little longer. But yeah, I don't like Serenity Bay in general. I'm getting all choked up about it. I'm sorry.
I said, oh my gosh, maybe we should turn the camera off while you have a good cry.
I know.
It was a steaks. Yeah,
I am so sorry about that. I had a frog in my throat or something there.
And you
talking about Serenity Bay.
You.
I don't like Serenity Bay in general at Castaway Cay. Keep me in the family side. So this one, I'm like, you know what? I might spend more time there, but I ultimately I don't need Serenity Bay at either island.
Okay. Ouch, Greg.
It was harsh, but fair enough.
That was shots fired. Like, okay, hot takes. All right, here we go.
I will tell you though, I want to add on something that with Serenity Bay, because that was kind of one of the things that a lot of people asked us about the separation. And I asked one of the cast members when we got there about it, and they said it's just space, that they have beach chairs all lined up on the family beach, and then there is a large area where there are no beach chairs, and then they start again on Serenity Bay. But here's the thing. I mean, and Hannah can chime in on this because we were in the water together. It didn't matter. Like, we only got in the water on the Serenity Beach side. Like, you still didn't hear any kids, you didn't see any kids. I mean, there was nobody around us. And I feel like Castaway, that there are always people very close to you, if not on top of you, unless you get way out. And I didn't feel like that here. There was nobody around us, even knowing that the family beach was right down there. It didn't impact us.
I do want to say, though, our cruise was not normal, and I have to imagine that there maybe was like 100 kids total on that cruise, maybe a little bit more than that. There really weren't a lot of kids.
I was told there was 400.
There was 400? Okay.
If there were 100, they were all in front of me. So I just want to let you know they've all gathered around John and Kevin. No, I thought there were a lot of kids. I didn't think it was an abnormal cruise, but you know, that it's not something I pay attention to. I was going to say something and I forgot what I was saying. Oh, one of the things that we haven't really mentioned, which is going to explain a lot of this, I think, is that Castaway is an island. it is an island. That is what Disney has leased for their 100 years, and that's what they're using for Castaway, where Lookout is a peninsula on a larger island, and Disney has this section of that island. So I would imagine for them, it must be more difficult to create this sort of, I'm going to put Serenity Bay in a certain location versus the family beach. So geography, topography is going to play into it. So that's one of the reasons why it's not exactly like Castaway. But, you know, they're doing that sort of model of this is what people like from Castaway, so we're going to bring it over to Lookout. And, you know, again, tweak and adjust. For food, I did not stay to eat the food. Went back to the ship. Kevin was waiting for me on the ship. We went to Cabanas, and we had the exact same food in Cabanas that you guys had on the island. So I just want to let folks know that that's an option. You know, it's not all of us not all of us enjoy, you know, 1,000-degree temperature, you know, and sitting elbow to elbow with people on a bench. So we went back to the ship. The ship was cool and it was empty, and we had the exact same food. So just something for folks to keep in mind. What we had on the ship was incredible. I don't know what your experience was on the island. What did you think of the food, guys? Elaine, what did you think?
So I didn't eat a lot of it because I was just, like I said, we were running around trying to do everything. I was hot, I was tired, and when I'm hot and tired, I don't even want to eat. So I got a couple of things. It was fine, but like I don't think I tried any of the new stuff that was specific to this island. Because like I said, I just wasn't hungry to begin with. But I know Hannah did try the new stuff.
What'd you think, Hannah?
Yeah, I was hungry. So Mama was hungry and I ate. So I do like those skinny steaks at Serenity Bay at Castaway. That's like, you'll find me there at lunchtime, Serenity Bay barbecue. No, I thought the menu was great. I know everybody wants to talk about the flies, and listen, it was gross at times. You know, they'll work on that. We live in Florida, like it, you know, it happens. But I feel like the menu was really, I enjoyed the unique options, and I felt like they had all the same other than the steak. They had everything that they have at Castaway, plus the addition of the, I think it was like the Bahamian pigeon piece with rice, and you could get it with chicken or you could get it with seafood. I thought that was awesome. And even like my toddler, that's one of the things he eats. He loves eating rice. So I'm like, okay, he would have eaten that. They had plantains. They had fried okra. You know, I'm from the South. I love fried okra. So I thought those additions were great. Plus they had all the usual, you know, like for me, I usually get the salmon or the mahi, and they had that there too. So I also felt like it was a little less focused on like, you know, burger, hot dog, corn on the cob type stuff, which is great. But I think it's nice. It gives people an option. So I think, you know, honestly, if they can figure out the fly thing, like the food's a winner for me at Lookout. So you win this round.
All right.
I liked how they set it up. I liked how they set it up too, because with Castaway, it's like one giant long buffet at each of the cookies and at Cookies Too and at Serenity Bay. But here at each of those, there was like window stations for each genre of food. So if you knew that there was something that you were looking at, like the seafood and rice, like that was at a specific station, whereas the burgers was at another station. So that was kind of nice because it wasn't the long line that you had to sit in. So
yeah, Castaway, they do a weird thing. Some of the food stations are kind of like you go in and it's like a right angle to sort of collect the food. I didn't look at it and look out, but that's something that's annoying to somebody who's in a mobility device. It's very difficult to manage, but neither here nor there. Craig, food, no steaks.
It's not my thing. No, I don't like cookies at Castaway Cay, and I don't like the food at Lookout Cay. It's just it's my preference. I'm a person that I don't deal with hunger. If I skip lunch, I'm like, perfect, I can have an even bigger dinner. And like, so when we looked at the food, there was nothing I was really interested in, and a lot of that was because of the flies. But just in general, I'm like, if I want a hamburger, I can wait. I don't want the hamburger. I can wait till I get back on the ship, and eventually I'll be able to get some shawarma, which I would much rather have if I'm on the Disney Magic. So I'm kind of over the idea of island barbecue in that way. I don't need it. I'll skip a meal, maybe have a piece of fruit or something to just hold me over, and then hopefully have a really good dinner.
Did you try the ribs? I gotta ask, because I thought the ribs were killer, and this is not something I say lightly.
I tried them and they were good.
I agree. Yeah, same. I had them. I thought they were great.
I thought they were so good. They were my favorite thing. But again, I had it on the ship. Cooler. So we've got to address the flies. Okay, let's just, we know it's an issue. It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. But again, I know I'm old and I've been around forever. I remember the early days of Castaway. And there were flies at Castaway. And there was this issue where they were talking about staying later at Castaway and staying overnight. And they couldn't because of the fly situation was so bad that they couldn't do this. So somewhere along the line, Disney has figured it out and introduced, some sort of means to keep the flies at bay. I think they imported old ladies who swallowed the flies. And then other things had to be brought in for the old lady to swallow. But they figured it out. And I think they'll figure it out here as well.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm going to say this. I'm not looking to go back anytime soon. Like I said, Chris Forbeck turned around and did another cruise in a week. I don't know that I would go back as fast. I want them to work the bugs out.
I see what you did there.
Thank you. So what else do we want folks to know about Lookout versus Castaway? Like, they're going to get there and they're going to say, this is the same, this isn't the same, this is different, this isn't different. I'm going to miss this from Castaway. So Elaine, what are you going to tell folks about Lookout versus Castaway?
So a couple things is definitely maybe just look at the map before you get off the ship, because one of the things that we haven't mentioned is all of the boardwalks on Lookout, that all of the paths, everything is raised boardwalks. And so you may be sitting at one building and trying to go to the building next to you, but you can't go straight there. And so you have to go back and up and around and come around to be able to get there. So it can get a little bit confusing. So maybe just kind of orient yourself with, these are the places we want to go. This is where we want to go. Now, one thing that really stuck out at me was that they had, I believe, 4 bars right off the beach, and all of them on the side had large shower areas and restrooms. There was so many showers and restrooms areas, and they were just right there, and they were clean and they were nice, and you wasn't 10 people trying to get to one nozzle. It was a whole row of them. I thought that was really, really, really nice.
Oh, wow. That's a good tip. That was not something I looked at or looked for, but that's cool to know. Mm-hmm. And what about you? What's your big thing you're going to tell folks when they say, I got a trip going, I've got a cruise going to Castaway, what should I know? I have a trip going to Lookout. I'm used to Castaway.
I think, honestly, and I don't mean this to slight Lookout Cay, because I do love it. I think go in not comparing it to Castaway Cay, because to me it is completely different. And I remember Disney saying Lookout Cay complements Castaway. And to me, they feel like two very different places. I feel like, obviously the quality is there. It feels like Disney, the Disney characters are there. That's familiar. The rest of it to me feels like a completely unique experience. So, I think from the parent side of things, I would say come prepared. If your kid's at an age where you're still using a stroller, I would definitely bring the stroller to the island, one that folds up easily into the tram. That would be my personal take. Maybe bring some personal fans. And then other than that, I think you can expect to have a full day experience at Lookout Cay, just with, the Junkanoo parade and the crafts and the splash pad areas for the kids, and the beach is phenomenal. And obviously they're going to have character meet and greets, and I enjoyed the lunch, so that would be a priority for me. So I think just, go into it not comparing it to Castaway, because honestly it feels to me completely different. But I think after you go knowing that and seeing how incredible the beach is and how unique it is, you're going to want to go back. And for me, like, I really am interested in the cruises that go to both Castaway and Lookout. I think that would be awesome.
I think those are going to be really cool. I think they're going to be very popular. Craig,
Yeah.
I'm giving you the last word. Someone comes to you and says, I'm used to Castaway. What am I looking at for Lookout? How different is it? Tell me about it.
I think it just comes down to what is it that you like about Castaway? Is it that it feels like you are on an island destination that Disney is managing, and that makes it feel more magical? If that's what you like about it, then I think it's the absolute same thing. It's just like Castaway. The crew members are getting off the ship with you. They are the ones who are making such a big difference. The everything that you want about Lookout Cay is the same as Castaway Cay. It's going to be clean. It's going to be a friendly environment. So it's the hard part is with Disney fans is we get way too used to something and then struggle to deal with the change. I think that in 10 years from now, people are going to even be like sitting here being like, I can't believe we debated between both back in the day. Like, they are both really awesome. I mean, ultimately for me, it's about, can I get off the ship and relax and disconnect? And I know I could do that at either island. And I think that's part of the enjoyment of cruising. So yeah, you're gonna find the same outcome at both places. It's just going to take a little getting used to.
Excellent. All excellent points, guys. I appreciate it. I don't know that we've come to a definitive answer of which one is better, because I don't think that's fair. I don't think you can say one's better than the other. I think for right now, it's exciting. It's always exciting to have something new and something cool to experience, and especially when it comes to Disney. We love it when there's something new and bigger and better. So, guys, thank you very much for being here and participating in this conversation. I truly appreciate it. They went silent.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. We'll talk about Disney Island, Disney destination anytime.
Anytime. All right,
Yeah.
great. And thank you, everybody at home, for listening and watching. We hope you have a great week, and we hope you have a great vacation.